Alright, I'd like to introduce you to the newest shirt in Screw Attack apparel.
I thought we weren't supposed to make any new designs until we sold out of the old stuff.
Yeah, don't you worry about that. Anyway, let me present to you the brand new Top 10 shirt.
Isn't that just the 10-year anniversary?
New Top 10 t-shirt. Hey, click the link in the description and buy the brand new, not in any way old Top 10 shirt. If you don't, I'ma get eaten.
Dragon Ball Z is so full of cool attacks and heroes and villains that we all love, but they all come together to form unforgettable moments. These are the reasons why we remember Dragon Ball Z years later. Now there's 291 episodes of this friggin' show, so of course limiting it to just 10, kind of a challenge, but we think the 10 you see here are the ones that define Dragon Ball Z as a whole. Hey, I'm Nervous Nick for Screw Attack's Top 10 Dragon Ball Z moments.
Number 10.
Goku may befriend a lot of his former enemies, but Vegeta's true conversion was a much slower process. Throughout DBZ, he's motivated by one thing and one thing only: to be better than Kakarot. But in one of the show's absolute most heroic moments, Vegeta finally puts his selfish ambitions aside for something greater than himself. A sacrificial act to save the world from a talking pink marshmallow. Don't let Majin Buu's goofiness undermine what's going on here, though. Vegeta hugs his son for the first time and sacrifices himself in the hopes of killing Majin Buu for good. The thing about this moment is the fact that there are no second chances for Vegeta. He won't get to hang out with Goku in heaven, and in fact, he's probably going straight to hell for all his transgressions. Even knowing this, Vegeta still does it. And it actually works! For 2 seconds before the Buu confetti begins to regenerate, rendering the entire suicide blast pointless. But still, it was noble of the Prince of All Saiyans to put the needs of others before his never-ending quest to be the strongest of all.
Number 9.
It goes without saying, but the world of Dragon Ball is weird. Like, super duper weird. When you die, you apparently lose your body and are judged by a giant red guy sitting behind a desk and sent to either heaven or hell. So when Goku is killed in the battle with Raditz, he basically ends up visiting both. While running the million-mile-long Snake Way, Goku has some really interesting encounters, not the least of which was that time he fell off and ended up in hell. I'm sorry, did I say hell? I meant home for infinite losers. Yep, censors at the FCC wouldn't let you show the word hell in a kids show, so they had to make do. Ironically, it's the losers who get the last laugh when the staircase back up to Snake Way makes Goku start all the way back at the beginning. Goku's adventures in Otherworld introduced many of us to the bizarre realms beyond Earth that shaped the Dragon Ball universe. Something that even later shows like Dragon Ball Super would continue to explore.
Number 8.
For better or worse, Dragon Ball Z is infamous for high-action battles, crazy hairstyles, screaming, and filler out the anus. Now that DBZ Kai is a thing, it's kind of hard to go back to the original 291 episode series, but if there is a moment of pointless content we kinda miss, it's Goku and Piccolo learning to drive. Seeing two of the Earth's most powerful warriors put on street duds and try to act like normal people is an amusing change of pace, to say the least. And what makes things even better is that you would think these great warriors would have some kind of driver's instincts, but nope! They both suck at it, especially Goku. He's constantly speeding excessively, breaking the steering wheel, and nearly killing his elderly instructor, not to mention a bunch of innocent bystanders to boot. This episode was a refreshing moment of levity in a show where people get cut in half, impaled, their arms get punched off, and not to mention it's just legitimately funny. And thanks to all that, this filler episode became legendary.
Number 7.
For a show that was rated appropriate for 7-year-olds on Toonami back in the day, Dragon Ball Z sure wasn't afraid to get gruesome. Even with certain moments being removed from the Cartoon Network run back in the day, others just couldn't be avoided. Including one of the most harrowing moments of all, Frieza getting cut in half. I was maybe 11 years old when I saw this for the first time, and it was easily the most intense thing I had ever witnessed on TV. What made it even more disturbing was that Frieza was still alive, and it was his own attack that did it. Yeesh! It's pretty dark, Toriyama. It's pretty dark. Anyway, Frieza's accidental mitosis reminded us all that this show had some real stakes, and people will get hurt on this crazy adventure. And what better way to deliver that message than a violent end to a violent ruler?
Number 6.
With the arrival of the Saiyans, Goku's world got a whole lot more interesting. When Vegeta, the most powerful of those Saiyans, turned into the Great Ape, Goku's world also got a whole lot more painful. But thankfully, somebody was paying attention in the original Dragon Ball, and that somebody was Yajirobe. Goku was about to face a crushing defeat when Samurai Jack Black came out of actual nowhere and sliced Vegeta's tail off to revert him back to normal. This moment was cool because it directly built upon lore established in Dragon Ball, but then just cranked it up to 11. It even retained a bit of the classic Dragon Ball humor by having the mighty Vegeta cut down to size by an eating disorder in an orange robe. Serves you right, Vegeta!
Number 5.
Dragon Ball Z tends to be a festival of fighting, but with that comes some real serial moments. Example, Piccolo's relationship to Gohan and the sacrifice he makes when squaring off against the Saiyan invasion. During the fight, Nappa decided it was time to wrap up the skirmish with Gohan, and the kid was just too afraid to move. Fortunately, Gohan and Piccolo formed a father-son relationship strong as any blood bond. So when the blast hit, the Namekian took the blow without thinking twice. While the gripping conclusion was a poorly placed Masenko and an Oscar-worthy death scene, it was a major turning point for Piccolo and an affirmation of the strong bond created in the short time they'd spent training together. Having the son of your enemy go on to become one of your only true friends is really what anime is all about.
You're like the son I never had. I'm proud of you.
Number 4.
Across the entirety of Z, the all-powerful attack known as the Spirit Bomb had been thought to be an ace in the hole. You know how it goes. Goku crowdsources energy from all living things, but more often than not, it winds up being the mighty number 9 of finishing blows. That is, until it was time to put down Kid Buu, and we finally got our Shovel Knight. What I'm trying to say is that it worked, okay? It didn't happen until the very end of the series, but it finally worked, and it was awesome, okay? Thanks to a little help from Satan himself, Mr. Satan, all the people of Earth come together, hands held high, empowering Goku to create the Super Spirit Bomb. And even still, it took like 10 full minutes of pushing this ball across the surface back and forth before it finally vaporized Kid Buu for good. But it did, which means it finally lived up to its nature as one of the greatest attacks in all of Dragon Ball Z.
Number 3.
Like, everybody loves the fight against Frieza. The villain was super memorable, pushed the main hero to new heights, yada yada yada, but one of the best things it did was make way for one of the coolest introductions in the entire series. Future Trunks, baby. At this point in the show, you know how hard it was to put Frieza down before. You know he's not somebody you just screw around with. So when Trunks just annihilates him with a sword in like a second, our jaws dropped clear to the floor. Being the son of the Prince of all Saiyans already gave him a well of power to draw from, and his suffering has molded that power into that of a mighty Super Saiyan warrior. Look, first impressions are huge, both in real life and in anime. Trunks' introduction blew us away. Also, he somehow pulls off a bowl cut? I think that's a superpower by itself.
Number 2.
Oh, but speaking of Super Saiyans, there is nothing quite like the first time. Planet Namek was being torn apart. Families were left broken and bleeding. Goku's best friend just died at the hands of a tyrant. And you, the viewer, know exactly what's about to go down. See, before the events of the Frieza saga, the legend of the Super Saiyan was just that, a legend. But after coming back from the dead, having trained on another plane of existence and witnessed such horrors, Goku achieved that next level. Seeing our main hero go from the black-haired, doe-eyed warrior to the god-slaying blondie of legend was quite possibly the most pivotal moment of all. Going forward, Super Saiyan status became a cornerstone of Dragon Ball itself. Yeah, the gold-haired transformation got a little bit less cool with every new character who achieved it, but it just further cements the introduction of Super Saiyan Goku as one of the most important moments in the whole show.
It's number 1.
From the first episodes of DBZ, Gohan's hidden power had been teased, alluded to, and hinted at until we finally got to see it explode full force against the bio-android Cell. After his dad's noble sacrifice proved ineffective, all eyes turned to Gohan as he unleashed one last desperation move. And as they say, like father, like son. This moment is equal parts feels and hype. A fipe moment, if you will. Even though he only had the use of one arm, Gohan refused to back down. He met Cell head-on with a Kamehameha of his own, with dear old dad with him every step of the way. To make things even better, all of the side characters you thought were so useless by now proved their worth by creating an opening for Gohan to personally introduce Cell to oblivion. Yeah, the entire father-son Kamehameha scene is exactly as satisfying as you imagine. In fact, it would have made for a perfect wrap-up for the whole Dragon Ball saga. But not everybody agreed. But hey, the good news is that the Great Saiyaman, Dragon Ball GT, and Gohan's green tracksuit can't detract from DBZ's finest moment. For a secret number 11, we've got to acknowledge a particular scene that once transcended Dragon Ball and even anime as a whole. Basically a nice way of saying it's a dead meme. Yep, the over 9,000 moment. There, we showed it. Now before you go, make sure to subscribe because we do top 10s every single week. See you next time.